Dear students, in this module, we will be covering the title of the module is on need of studying population in the context of development. The major learning objectives of this module are to focus on population or demographic studies, the distinction that exists between population studies and demographic studies, the development of field of population studies, and the development of demographic studies in India. Population studies or demographic studies have become a prominent area of study because of emergence of demographic problems like high mortality, specifically high maternal and child mortality, child immunization, communicable and waterborne diseases, high and fluctuating fertility, migration, child marriages, underweight and malnutrition, marriage patterns, especially child marriages, urbanization and other developmental issues. The disciplines like economics, sociology, psychology, anthropology, ecology, environment, human biology, law might not have been developed as a subject of study if there is no population, because all these disciplines have emerged considering either groups of population or as individual as the central theme. Therefore, the population studies or the demographic studies have to have a multidisciplinary approach. The disciplines like mathematics and statistics are used as a tools of data analysis, measurement of concepts, and population modeling. Let's discuss about what is the difference that exists between population studies and demographic studies. In general, the focus of demographic studies is on the three components of population change, mainly fertility, mortality, and migration. Thus, the approach of demographic studies is narrow. On the other hand, the population studies cover many aspects of population like urban growth, health and well-being of people. Thus, demographic studies are part of population studies. However, this distinction is no longer considered and the terms population studies and the demographic studies are used without any distinction. Development of population studies. It was in the middle of the 7th century that population studies have emerged as a discipline or as an independent subject of study. Population studies mostly developed in England by the economists. The concern of size, growth, and characteristics of population has always been in the minds of thinkers and philosophers and economists of that time. Later, other economists and philosophers from Europe and USA have also contributed to the development of the field of population studies. The analytical foundation using empirical data of population studies has been started by John Grant during 1920 to 1672 in his paper entitled Natural and Political Observations Made upon the Bills of Mortality, published in London in 1662. He made only brief remarks on fertility and migration. Sir William Petty, in the period 1623 to 1687, has worked with John Grant. Petty's work on political arithmetic has considerable influence on the future development of population studies. Grant, along with William Petty, developed early human statistical and census methods that later provided a framework for modern demography. He is credited with producing the first giving probabilities of survival to each age. Grant is also considered as one of the first experts in epidemiology, since his famous book was concerned mostly with public health statistics. The first life table had been published in London in 1662 in a book entitled Natural and Political Observations Made upon the Bills of Mortality. This book is usually considered as the founding text of both statistics and demography, but it might have been written by John Grant or by his friend William Petty. That means, to start with, population studies as a discipline has started with the study of mortality. This is followed by the famous theory of population by Thomas Robert Malthus. He propounded with that while population follow geometric growth rate, means of subsistence follow arithmetic growth rate. Thus, the population numbers outstripping means of subsistence in future until there is check on population growth. Until then, many economists and philosophers have always thought of and supported only population size and growth because it supplies army to protect state and labor to work on land. Following the Malthusian theory of population, many economists, followed by sociologists and anthropologists, have propounded population theories mostly concerning population size and growth. Studies in fertility have been sporadic during the 19th century. There are many reasons for this. In general, the motivation to study of fertility is not strong because birth rates are not very high. Therefore, fertility has not been able to attract thinkers and philosophers to focus on it. In addition, the production of food supplies increased at a much higher rate than population because of agriculture development. Further, fertility remains stable and has never indicated any declining trend. The proof for this is the absence of fertility differentials. Some countries have taken interest to enumerate all citizens in the country, what is called as census. The USA had its first census in 1790 and England and France in 1801. Thus, population data are available for further study and analysis. Interest in fertility studies has developed in the early 19th century with the onset of fertility decline in England in the late 19th century. The fertility decline has generated interest to investigate the causation for the fertility transition. The declining birth rate became a worrisome in Britain and a committee has been constituted to investigate reasons for falling birth rates. Since the middle of 20th century or after the Second World War, the growth in the population studies has been phenomenal. Many developing countries after the Second World War have suddenly started experiencing rapid mortality decline because of imported modern health facilities from the developed countries to eradicate of communicable diseases, mass immunization programs, and onset of modern health facilities. The declining death rate and high birth rate have initiated rapid population growth in many Asian countries. The rapid population growth rates have speeded up the population momentum, that is, doubling population in decreasing intervals of time. This demographic scenario has created a need to control fertility and initiate family planning programs. But a strong and favorable attitude to high fertility in family-oriented cultures became a big hurdle for the acceptance of family planning methods and to control fertility. Therefore, along with family planning programs, other supporting programs to change fertility attitudes and to increase adoption of family planning methods have also been initiated. One among them is demography studies and research. Let's discuss about the development of demographic studies in India. In the ancient India, there are very limited references available on population data. A detailed description of how to collect data on population, economy, and agriculture census is available in the Kautilya's Ardhashastra. Kautilya was Prime Minister of Chandragupta Maurya 323 to 300 period. The Ain Akbari was compiled by Abul Fazl during the reign of Akbar, contains comprehensive data on population, industry, wealth, and characteristics of population. Such attempts to collect population data are a few and far between. This documented information is of only historical interest, as quoted in the book authored by Bende Asha A. and Tara Kanitkar, titled Principles of Population Studies, Delhi, Himalaya Publishing House, 1996, page 87 to 113. Under British rule, India had its first census conducted in 1872. Since then, India has been conducting census for every 10-year interval beginning from 1881. Census often collected data on demographic data like age, sex, and persons in household, economic data on occupation, industries, urban, town and cities, and cultural data on religion, marriage, education, family type, and the like. Thus, India has population database for a long period for planning and implementing various welfare programs. Even considerable research has also been carried out using Indian census data. Apart from the census data, India has been periodically publishing gazettes containing information on health and vital rates, nutrition, early marriages, birth rates, relationship between marriage customs and birth rates, death rates, differentials in death rates, rural urban residents, sex, religion, causes of death, health conditions, etc. These data have been complemented by survey data carried out by demographers and social scientists, as well as supplemented by anthropological studies. Here, it may be worthwhile to briefly review the population growth in India. It has been documented that mortality in India is believed to have been started declining since 1921 because of borrowed modern medical techniques of eradicating communicable diseases and child immunization. After India's independence, modern medical facilities have been made freely available by the state and central governments. In the course of time, the accessibility to modern medical facilities have considerably improved. The existing modern medical facilities in public sector have strongly been supported by the private sector. As a result, mortality has declined from 16 deaths per 1000 population in 1971 to 73 to 7 deaths per 1000 population in 2001. The infant mortality has also declined from 134 infant deaths per 1000 births in 1971 to 73 to 44 infant deaths per 1000 births in 2011, as mentioned in table 1. The fertility has remained stable around 35 births per 1000 population until 1975. It started declining in 1975 onwards from 35 births per 1000 population to 22 births per 1000 population in 2011. The decline in fertility is because of adoption of modern family planning methods. The family welfare program, as initiated by the central government way back in 1952, made these drastic changes that have followed over a period of time. Modern family planning methods have been made available by the family welfare program at free of cost for all couples. Even then, it took almost 25 years for the family welfare program to change strong favorable attitudes to large number of children to small number of children. As a result, the percentage of couples effectively protested against pregnancy has increased from 16% in 1976 to 54% in 2015 to 16. This has significantly impacted on fertility. In the meantime, Indian government has passed the MTP Act of 1972, making access to induced abortion, which is easy on certain medical reasons. The number of MRPs has been increasing since 1972, and the number is more than 5 lakhs for many years after 1980s, as reported in Table 2. This would definitely support the declining trend in fertility. It has been documented that the onset of fertility declined in 1976 and has been declining over a period of time since then. It took a while for fertility to respond to the declining mortality. During this period of 1921 to the onset of fertility decline in 1975 to 76, population has grown rapidly. In conformation with the trends in death rates, birth rates percentage of couples protected against births and number of MTPs, the census population and the decadal population growth rates should be viewed. The population growth rates have been moderate during 1901 to 1931, fluctuating between 5 to 11% per 10-year period. The negative growth rate in population during the decade 1911 to 21 is because of influenza epidemic in 1918, resulting in 50 to 100 million deaths as reported in Table 3. The population has increased slowly in the decade 1931 to 41 and 1941 to 51. Then on, it has accelerated from 1951 to 2000, increasing by more than 20% per decade. During the period of 50 years, the absolute population increased from 3,61,88,000 in 1951 to 1,028,737,000 in 2001, an increase of about 6,676,49,000 or about 185%. Thus, the population has been increasing despite of fertility decline since 1976, and also mortality decline because of high natural growth rate, that is the difference between birth rate and death rates. The population growth rate started declining moderately for the decades 1981-91 and 1991 to 2001, and substantially for the decade 2001 to 2011. This is also the period where the natural growth rates are falling moderately during 1981 to 2001 and substantially during 2001 to 2011. The rapid population growth rate has been expected by many policymakers, administrators and academicians way back in 1950s. Accordingly, family welfare program has been initiated to advise on the benefits of family planning and to supply free family planning methods. A strong IEC department is established to change the fertility attitudes by using print media, electronic media, billboards, folk and traditional entertainers, and person-to-person communication methods. Research activities have increased in fertility and family welfare by creating population research departments in established academic institutions and universities. Research and degree programs have been started since late 1950s in specialized research institutions and universities. Recently, non-governmental institutions have also started in carrying out demographic and health research. The Table 1 depicts various vital rates in India, 3-year moving average during 1971 to 2007 and annual estimates during 2006 to 2011 and NFHS 4 estimates for 2015 to 2016. Similarly, the Table 2 provides the number of medical termination pregnancies (MTPs) during 1972 to 2013. and the table 3 is about census decadal population growth rate, that is during 1901 to 2011, which clearly indicates the changes that happened in the decadal arithmetic growth rate over a period of time and how it fluctuated in between, and now there is a specific negative trend in the speed in which the growth rate is occurring. In this way, clearly we have to understand that the study of population studies goes beyond one particular discipline, and it has a close linkages with various disciplines like sociology, anthropology, economics, human biology, law, and many more which have been developed population groups and individuals in this background. Therefore, population issues and problems and issues cannot be resolved without referencing to the other concerned disciplines, and these issues are briefly discussed below. In the case of discipline of sociology and its linkage with population studies, let's focus here. Demography, as we know, is a science related with the population. It studies different aspects of population like its size, density, effects of birth rate, death rate, migration, etc. The size of population affects the social, cultural, economic and moral aspects of the society. The most importantly, the three components of population growth, that is death rate, birth rate, migration, and affected by various social factors like social norms governing the woman's status, female education, children's schooling, female freedom to work outside home, fertility attitudes, adoption of family planning methods, migration of females like going to distant places alone and the like, also have to be kept in mind while discussing about the various linkages between sociology and the demography. Kingsley Davis points out that the following areas of study which require a combined knowledge of demography and sociology, fertility, population changes, structure of labor force, social organization, family with regard to demographic behavior, and internal and external migrations have to have a close linkage with the social aspects. Similarly, some others have regarded demography as one of the major 9 elements of sociological analysis, such as social organizations, socialization, social stratification, primary groups, associations, collective behavior, culture, ecology, and population. Along with above similarities between them, there are also some differences between the two. First, marriage, migration, family, etc. are studied under both, but sociological studies these are as part of a social institutions and finds out its effects on social life. On the other hand, demography, while studying these subjects, take into account their contribution to the structure of population and its size. Thus, sociological studies mainly focusing on social relationships, while demographic studies social relations related to population. Secondly, sociology is a social science of what it is, and demography is a social science of what ought to be. Third, sociology describes social relations qualitatively, whereas demography is concerned with quantitative relations of demographic phenomena using various methods of measurements. Let us discuss about its relation with the economics. Economic studies the problems arising out of economic activities of the individual and society, while demography is concerned with the structure of population and demographic factors related to that. Economics and demography are mutually related to each other. Demographic studies regional distribution of the population. The regional distribution of population deeply affects the economic activities and the economic factors of the society. In this way, information gathered by the demographers proves useful to the economists. In the same way, economics also helps to provide useful information to demography. For determining the size of the population, demographers must know the size of production and consumption of goods and services, which come under the study of economics. Population growth in developed countries having abundant capital and scarcity of labor has led to their high per capita GNP. But in an underdeveloped country, high population growth leads to declining productivity, low per capita income, mass unemployment, low rate of capital formation, and low growth rate of the economy. As pointed by Bowen, I quote, population growth, size and distribution cannot be discussed rationally except in the context of economic growth or change, unquote. There being many fields which are common to both the sciences, still there are some differences between the two. First, economic studies view production as an economic activity of man, also keeping in view of demand and supply. On the other hand, demographic studies production to know its overall effects on the quality of the population. Secondly, demographic studies like birth rates to see its effects on the size of population, while economic studies birth rates to know its effects over labor market, price, production, consumption, demand and supply, etc. The scope of economics is very wide as compared with the demography. In fact, demography is now a part of the study of economics. The third component is the social biology. Social biology is a branch of biology. It studies the biological activities of man living as a member of the society. It studies the origin of living beings, the place of human beings, the origin of different species, reproduction, hereditary process, etc. Demography, on the other hand, is the study of population-oriented activities like birth rate, death rate and quality of population. Besides, it also studies the size and structure of population, changes in population, etc. Like other social sciences, social biology has mutual relations with demography. For example, demographic studies the reproducible aspects of population, and for this, theories and principles of social biology are helpful to a large extent. Demography also helps social biology in its field of study. It studies the effect of differences in birth rates over the physical and mental qualities of the population. On the basis of this, the foundation of the science of reproduction was laid in England by Galton in social biology. Both the sciences are complementary in nature. As is the case with other social sciences, social biology also differs from demography. Marriage is the subject matter of both the sciences, but demographers see the role of the age at marriage in the growth of population, while social biology finds out the effect of marriage, relation between different castes on reproduction and their traits. Social biology is concerned with the study of reproductive process of human body, while demographic studies the reproducible aspects of human beings. Lastly, social biology is a natural science having uniform laws applicable to all human beings. But demography is a normative science in which we expect the birth rate, death rate, life expectancy, etc. to be high or low depending upon a country's economic conditions. The other aspect is also about geography. Geographical studies the geographical feature of the earth such as climate of different parts, natural resources, people and their economic lives. Previously, we used to study physical and biotic features in geography, but now in the present era, the importance of human ecology has increased a lot. In other words, the importance of population studies has increased over a period of time. In geography, we study the distribution of population, keeping in view the economic, social and cultural aspects. As pointed out by Ackerman, I quote, recent geographers have taken the cultural features of the earth, analyzed them generically and genetically in their space relations and established covariant relations of cultural features with each other and with those of the physical and biotic environment. These distributional features are common to both demography and geography. The population census is always done in a definite geographical area. In the population census, the study of differentials and similarity of demographical aspects of different geographical areas is made. Moreover, both geographers and demographers analyze population census. The analysis of demographic data is done to focus the geographical differentials between the developed and underdeveloped countries. Geographers study the birth rate, death rate and migration rate. Geographers also study ethnic distribution, races, health, ages and sex. The other discipline relation with the population studies is on human ecology. There is a close relationship between demography and human ecology. Human ecology is mainly concerned with the population and environment. It deals with the relations and interrelation between natural in general and human nature in particular. From the ecological point of view, people live and exploit and change and develop environmental resources, and in that case there are a number of areas of study which show close relation between human ecology and demography. Human ecology studies many demographic problems like fertility and mortality, uses demographic data and techniques. Similarly, the disciplines like mathematics and statistics also have a close relationship, like mathematics also, which are uses in calculating census and survey data. Statistics are used in data analysis and estimation of various parameters, and statistics are used in evaluation of quality of census and survey data. Similarly, mathematical demography has been started with the actuarial science, which estimates the average number of years a person is expected to live after certain age, after going through a given age specific mortality schedule, also known as life tables, and they are extensively used. In this way, we need to understand that the study of population, as a discipline, demography or population studies is a multidisciplinary which has a close linkages with various other disciplines like sociology, economics, human ecology, geography and various other social sciences fields and biological aspects. That is why the population studies is a multidisciplinary in nature.